Well, good morning, Children's Health Defense, and happy Friday. It's that time again for doctors and scientists. This is a really special episode. There is somebody who I have admired for such a long time. She had made such a mark, indelible mark, regarding the autism and the health freedom community, and unfortunately passed away in 2021. A dear friend of mine, Dr. Gayle DeLong, she was not only a fellow autism parent, but she was also a fellow researcher and contributed so much in terms of looking at vaccine adverse events, vaccines, and autism. And I am so honored today to have Dr. DeLong's husband, Jonathan Rose, PhD, right, professor of history at
Correct.
Drew University. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And Dr. Rose has produced this amazing dynamite book. I'm going to tear up because I just finished it. But an amazing book that was written by him, by his wife, Gayle DeLong, and their daughter, Jennifer Rose. And it's called Love in the Age of Autism. Let's talk about the book. I mean, there's so much in it, and there's so much that's important. Why did you and Gayle put this together?
Gayle decided to keep a diary of the last 2 years of her life, which is to say 2020 to 21. I knew she was keeping the diary, and she wanted me to read it, and she fully intended it for publication. I didn't read it until she was almost on her deathbed, and I was absolutely blown away by it. This is an extraordinary human document of the autism epidemic. Also, of course, the COVID pandemic, which had a terrible impact on special needs families and autism families, and all that is recorded. And it's a love story. It's about our marriage and how that enabled us to deal with all the curveballs that autism threw at us, and we were really able to cope with anything. It was an absolutely wonderful, wonderful marriage. And while I miss her terribly, one also has to be grateful that we enjoyed as much time together as we did. So it's a record of that as well. Mostly it is written by her. I edited it. I added some introductory material, which is what historians do. We do use the diaries of ordinary people to understand how big events affect ordinary people on an everyday level. The most famous example, for example, is Anne Frank. Okay, so I felt that generations from now, this could be used to understand what the impact of autism and the impact of the lockdowns and COVID had on the autism community.
I so love the book, and I so appreciate the book. You have two daughters, Flora and Jennifer.
Yes.
I believe Jennifer's the oldest. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Both have been and were fairly early on diagnosed with autism. Tell us a little bit more about your daughters.
They were both diagnosed with autism. Flora is more seriously affected. She's the younger one. She had more shots than Jennifer did.
Right.
Very sweet girl, but not very verbal. And frankly, she would not be able to live on her own. Fortunately, she's in a very good group home, which takes good care of her. And that's, of course, an anxiety for a lot of autism parents trying to find a proper care. We were able to do that, fortunately, knock on wood. Jennifer is a very articulate, a college graduate, a published author. She published her first book when she was still in college. Quite charming and clever. And I'm amazed at her insights into people. It's sometimes said that autistic people can't see into other people's minds. Maybe in some cases that is true, but not in every case. And I am astonished by how, like any good writer, she is able to put herself inside the mind of other characters and figure out what makes them tick. So she's able to speak to both worlds. She has friends who are both autistic and non-autistic, and is able to explain these worlds to each other.
Mhm.
Um, and we are, of course, very, very proud of her literary success.
The book covers so many different subjects that are, others would be considered as taboo. You talked and Gail talked about your sex life with,
Yes,
while raising two girls with autism. And to me, that's so encouraging. I mean, it's so real, it's so vivid, and it was just so honest. My hat's off to you. It was Love in the Age of Autism is a love story. And I think that first and foremost was this theme that came right through right away. You talked about meeting Gail for the first time, and your romance and courtship. And thank you so much. I mean, it's such a beautiful tale, but you did not sacrifice your love for each other, and you are, I'm still to this day are unashamedly in love with your wife, and that came through for both of you in this book. So thank you so much.
well, thank you, Brian. It's very kind of you. Yeah, I felt this was Gail. Frankly, was a very much in touch with her own sexuality. She's very open about it,
Hmm.
and that would made her one of the things that made for a wonderful marriage on our part. When a lot of autism moms, especially when they discover that their children have autism, put that part of their life, to the side. They feel they
Right.
have to do every waking hour and every bit of energy to taking care of their children. Gail was certainly a dedicated mom, but she was not going to give
Yes.
up that part of her life. And I think that that is one of the things that kept our marriage going and made everything endurable, frankly, that way. I didn't want to cut this out because if I
No.
did, that would not be Gail. It would not be her. This is all in her own words. And I did want to give encouragement to autism parents. Yes, you can have a deeply satisfying and monogamous physical love, even if you have an autistic child. And there are various strategies we suggest for sneaking that into your life.
Right.
Um, and we also discuss the sex education for autistic girls because they can be taken advantage of. They are often naive. They don't pick up on subtle social cues. And we
Right.
worked out a number of strategies which enabled, I'm happy to say, Jenny knows how to handle herself around guys. And
Great.
that she has learned and knows how to draw boundaries and establish them.
That is so good. I mean, and that's one of as an autism dad, that's, obviously one of my fears. My son, up until about 18 months ago, was not able to communicate with us in any way, shape, or form, except for very rudimentary gestures.
Yeah,
And, the thing I thank God for is that communication. And the ability now, in hindsight, we went through sex education with him just, on faith that he understood, when he was like 12, 13, 14 years old. That was probably late. But thank you so much for providing that. It's so necessary. It's so absolutely important. There are predators out there, and autistic children, autistic adults, they need to be able to know. I mean, if they have that level of understanding, they need
yes,
to be able to know. And if they don't have that level of understanding, you need to provide a protective environment with them as well.
definitely. One of the things, one of our recommendations, and what worked for us,
Right.
first we let Jennifer watch Sex in the City with us and Two Broken
Hmm.
Girls. Those are two, shall we say, rather intelligently raunchy sitcoms, and she
Right.
certainly made her feel very sophisticated, and she also picked up a lot from that. We also had a habit of watching Turner Classic movies from the 30s,
Hmm.
40s, because that was the era of the Hays Code. That's when Hollywood could not discuss sex explicitly, but you could allude to it, you could insinuate it, you could wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and so on. And that enables, I think, autistic young people to pick up these subtle social cues that often are involved with human sexuality, and to interpret them and to decode them. And of course, we were sitting there with her and explaining what all this was about. Um, so that's a sort of unthreatening way of explaining this whole realm of sexual behavior to an autistic child.
These are subjects that are not discussed.
Mhm.
When you look at autism books, parenting guides for autism, and so much, and I guess I understand. I mean, you get fixated on biomed and biomedical treatment for your children, recovering a certain amount of function and things like that. But that's not the only thing. And the other subject that I really, um, I appreciate you covering and Gail covering, and that is, the possibility of violence. I have a son who's self-injurious, and also, has had his way with our drywall and things like that.
Yeah,
But
yes,
which I'm sure you probably very well know about that as well. Your book was an honest treatment of what happens when violence can be directed away, can be directed towards caregivers, can be directed towards
yes.
patients, our parents, excuse me, siblings, whatever. Talk a little bit more about that, because you had a unique situation that you had two girls that were different levels of function
Yes.
on the autism spectrum, but yet you had to deal with violence at the same time.
2 out of 3 autistic young people are violent toward family members or caretakers. Okay. And yes, you could say that they no longer have control over their own actions, and
Right.
something takes over. It does become a kind of a Jekyll and Hyde personality. They can be perfectly sweet 1 minute, and then suddenly something triggers it. God knows what, and
Right.
uh, and it takes off. And of course, it was particularly hard on Gail because she was suffering from cancer, and at one point, the cancer had eaten away at her vertebrae, spinal vertebrae, not the spinal
Mhm.
nerve, but the bones around it.
Right.
And she was in a body brace, and one sharp blow to the head could have paralyzed her for life. And so this was a very dangerous and stressful kind of situation, and it's not unusual. We just when we look to our friends and in the autism community, that the 2 out of 3 statistic seems to hold pretty consistently. We all know the online newsletter Age of Autism, and they
Right.
once asked for people to write in about this, and literally hundreds wrote in with absolutely heartrending stories, and they have nowhere to turn.
No.
Um, Social services often will not take violent, autistic young people, and you understand why, because they have to protect their clients, the young people in their program, and the staff, and so on. But that
Right.
leaves the families totally abandoned. Um, and the problem is not even acknowledged in the mainstream media or by the medical profession. So the hope was that um, dealing with this, very unpleasant but unfortunately very real problem, we could bring it all out in the open.
Absolutely. And I've heard so many of these stories, but I've never seen it written quite like this.
Mhm.
And the fact is that there a lot of times there are no places. I've heard of stories. We had friends in our own community that had a son that was in a hospital, just a regular hospital, because
Yeah,
there was for 6 weeks, because there was nowhere else to take him. And because of the issues, he laid there, he was drugged up, and you hear these situations, you hear these circumstances. But I'm so thankful that you address this directly in the book. The other statistic, you talked about, roughly 2 out of 3, of these children slash adults, having, acting out violently. The other statistic that really turned my head was the actual statistics on marriage and divorce in autistic families. Can you recount what those were for us?
okay. Well, there was an early report that 80% of autism marriages end in
Right,
divorce.
right, and that never really held water.
I would say maybe it's more in the area of 30%. Yes, it is certainly higher, considerably higher than the general population. Obviously, it puts a
Right,
great strain on marriage. How can you avoid that? Well, among other reasons, things, be on the same page, work cooperatively. with each other as a couple. Many autism moms give up their jobs when they discover the child has autism and devote themselves full time to their children. Gayle, frankly, she was a professor in business school. She was a
Right.
consummate career woman. She would have shot herself if she couldn't have her career. So we worked it
Right.
out. I'm a professor too. We staggered our teaching schedules. I taught Monday, Wednesday, Friday. She taught Tuesday, Thursday. Someone was always at home with the kids. I did the cooking and shopping, and we divided up other household responsibilities. So we were
Right.
able to manage that, and we were basically on the same page as far as how to handle this, the treatments, and so on. So we weren't fighting over that, which can often be very divisive with a couple. Lots of love, lots of sex. I mean, that really helps for the marriage, doesn't it? It helps smooth things over.
I feel that that is so important because the tendency is that you make these sacrifices, all these, whatever sacrifices. There was a quote in the book from Jenny McCarthy, bless her heart, when she first came home from the hospital after Evan had his episodes and talked about how she couldn't think about sex, that
Exactly.
all she thought about was Evan. And you contrasted that, I think, in a way that was honoring to Ms. McCarthy, but also in a way that there were certain things, and I think there are certain aspects of your life that if you give them up, you're actually depriving your child or your children of living in a happy household.
That's true. And I admire Jenny McCarthy, and so did Gayle. But frankly, on
Right,
this issue,
right.
in fact, he disagreed. No, this is exactly what you want in your marriage, and that's the glue that holds it together, among other things.
There's so many benefits of
Mhm.
just having a healthy relationship between a husband and wife on a child,
Yeah,
regardless of whether they're special needs, not special needs, where they are on the spectrum. And I think that is so, so absolutely important. Regardless to that, the other thing that came out in your book is the emotional trauma that children on the spectrum go through. I mean, again, we get so focused on the biomed, the healing, the do they have language, don't they have language, speech, OT, ABA, floor time, sunrise, all these different, logistics. But one of the things that, quite frankly, you handle and also Gayle handled while she was, keeping her 2-year diary was the emotional health of these girls who were navigating the world through layers of autism spectrum disorder.
they were going through a lot of treatments, most of which, by the way, did not work. And we don't
Right,
know
right.
what's going to work, of course, until you try it. Um, but it is not fun for them. I can understand why they resent it sometimes in some ways. Wonder why they have to put up with all this. Um,
Exactly.
but I think that they both understood that it was for their benefit. One thing with Flora, the younger one, whenever we took her to a doctor, she was always absolutely cooperative, do everything he told her to, because I think she realized we were taking care of her, and she appreciated
Right.
that.
It's so appropriate that it's also explained to them that
Yes,
one of the things that you find out, and this does cut through your book, is they're absorbing everything around them. Whatever they present cognitively, from an expressive standpoint, is not necessarily what they express cognitively from a receptive standpoint. That they're, that they are sponges, and that really does come through. I've had the same experience with my son being very, very compliant, a great patient. He has to go to a phlebotomist once a month for one of his medications. And the new phlebotomists always prepare themselves for the worst, but no, he sticks out his arm, he stands still. Same thing,
yeah.
absolutely same thing. When was Gail actually diagnosed with cancer?
It was 7.5 years before her passing, so it was. Would that be the summer of 2015?
So you were also living through, cancer treatment. I believe that, the book was clear that Gail was pursuing alternative treatment. She did not pursue chemotherapy. And then when that came up as an option, I believe that she was really too sick for it anyway.
Right, right. She was convinced, and I think she was right. It would have been worse than the disease.
Right.
Um, and I mean, you're basically trying to poison the cancer before the chemicals poison you, and I don't think that really works very well. So she did use alternative treatments. She did use organic diet. She did do some radiation, but never chemotherapy. And yes, to be honest, she did not trust conventional medicine. I wonder why not.
Hmm.
And and she was a very determined woman who was determined to do things her way. That's the kind of person she was. And that's one of the reasons I loved her and respected her. I, to be honest, didn't entirely understand what these treatments were all about. She did prodigious research, and I was impressed by that.
Right. Right.
I certainly wanted to keep her around, but I also trusted her judgment. And she said, "Look, it's my body, it's my life. I'm doing this my way." And I loved her for that, frankly.
Living through that, and then living through, these last 2 years, I'm so thankful that she kept a diary.
Yes,
Um, and I think that it absolutely is going to help so many people. The book actually came out last month,
yes,
and I did some research. It's available at Anthem Press. Was the publisher of the book, and then also it's available at like Amazon.com. People pursue it that way, and it sounds like you could probably order it from a variety of booksellers. Is that correct?
certainly, yes.
Yeah. And have you gotten any feedback so far? I mean, I'm overwhelmed. And maybe it's because I just finished it. But this is a book that everybody everybody should read, regardless of whether they have a child on the spectrum or not, regardless of what stage of life they are in or not. I think there's so many takeaway messages from the book. So what type of response, Jonathan, have you gotten so far?
Limited response because it's only been out for a month. Stephanie Senath was absolutely impressed. Know her. She was
Yes.
enormously impressed by it, and a few others who we already have feedback from. So when I edited it, I wondered, I was so involved with Gayle and all these, and I didn't know whether all of this angst and all this the drama we went through would be
Right.
relevant just to us or whether other people would relate to it. Well, the initial response tells me no, it does. Everybody can relate to it. Everyone who's been through autism, everyone who's been through fighting a potentially deadly disease,
Right.
um, and so I think it is going to have a very broad appeal in that respect.
I recommend it so highly for our viewers. I want everybody to come out. To go out and get this right away. I buy books from Amazon. I think my wife buys everything from Amazon. We haven't gotten to the pharmaceuticals yet, so I'm so happy. It's just
Yeah.
I don't want to give that up to Amazon yet, um, but I do highly recommend that you purchase this book, Jonathan. In your putting this together, in your life, that is poured out in this book with your lovely wife Gayle, your wonderful daughters Flora and Jennifer. What are some of the takeaways that you really want people to get from this book?
I think this is probably the best memorial she could have probably had because anyone
Yes.
reading it 100 years from now is going to know exactly the kind of person that Gayle was. A distinct and unique individual, remarkable individual, who spoke very frankly, who expressed herself without an internal censor operating, who called things as she saw it and told it like it is. Um, and I think you will be amazed at how freely spoken she is. And Of course, the love she felt for her whole family comes through very, very clearly. So I'm hoping that for families who are struggling with autism or indeed struggling with other very serious disorders and diseases, will find comfort and support, and it will make them stronger and more capable of coping with what they're dealing with, because there are people out there who understand exactly what you're coping with.
Absolutely. And it's so frank, it's so honest. It is absolutely refreshing. And I thank you for that, because there's a certain level of personal aspect that comes through, that you've opened yourselves up, you've opened your lives up, and so many people are going to benefit from this. So Jonathan, thank you so much for compiling it. Thank you to your lovely wife, for pouring out her heart and making this available in her last years on earth. I have so much respect. I have so much love for both of you. I appreciate you so much. And thank you also for joining us. The book, Love in the Age of Autism, Anthem Press. I want everybody to go get it.
Thank you so much, Brian. I really appreciate this.
My name is Matt, and I'm here representing my family, my wife Jen, and we have 4 children. And of those 4 children, 3 are fully unvaccinated that we know, and 1 we're unsure about because of a situation that occurred in the hospital when he was born.
So let's go back.
Sure.
You said that your wife kind of had a background. She's a nurse.
Yeah, she's
a her story.
Yeah, she's a nurse. She wasn't vaccinated until she was in nursing school. She wanted to go on to a mission trip to Africa, where when they ran her blood and titers and such, they discovered that she didn't have any vaccines. So she was required to do that. And unfortunately, looking back, she wishes she wouldn't have, but she desired at the time to go on this mission trip. And she was vaccinated, and when we started having children, it was one of our desires to not vaccinate our children, and which 3 of them we haven't, and they're healthy, rarely sick, so much healthier than so many other kids that are friends of ours. And our one son, Parker, unfortunately the day that he was born or the day after, he was with the nurses at the nurses station, so to say, or in the room where they keep the babies, and my wife was asking where he was, and the one nurse says, "Oh, he's getting his shot," and she's like, "Oh, he's not supposed to have any shots." So immediately the nurse ran out of the room, and we still are unsure if he received anything at this point.
Okay. And going back to like the conversations you and your wife were having, did you have reservations? Were you afraid of not vaccinating your kids?
No. Interesting enough, I'm a chiropractor, so I have unfortunately seen the harsh side of vaccine injuries. And a lot of times these kids and families are abandoned by the system, and they don't know where to turn. And in chiropractic, we have the belief that the body is self-healing, self-maintaining, self-regulating, and we're there to help facilitate that to these patients. And when they're basically discarded and by the medical community, we're there for them, and we help them with not just chiropractic, but so many different types of things of holistic health care that can really help these kids.
And do your kids have any allergies, eczema,
No.
ADHD?
No.
Can I go through the list of things?
Yeah, I mean, our kids don't have, other than our son Parker has a sensory processing, and he's the one that we believe received an injection in the hospital, but it's mild. He's, what I would consider a very high functioning kid, and all of our other kids rarely get sick. I mean, when it comes to skin issues or disorders or severe allergies or something like that, only our one daughter, who is, if she eats way too much milk and cheese, and and I think I'm that way too, but too much ice cream and stuff, she gets some rosacea, which is redness on her cheeks. But she's a really healthy kid. Again, it's amazing how healthy they really are.
And do you think that for your children, can you see a difference in their peers and the kids around them, and the amount that they get sick? Like, did your children have the regular ear infections and issues like that when they were younger?
No, I check the children regularly. We provided chiropractic care to them, which is known to help with ear issues and such, and more preventative than anything. They have good nutrition, clean air, clean water, just some of the fundamental things that really helps us be healthy without external things trying to, control or, change how our body works.
And as a father of unvaccinated children, what would you say to that parent who is debating whether or not they should vaccinate?
I think it's in this world you have to be well informed, and unfortunately there's certain information that is hard to find, whether there's a purpose to that or not, but you have to know the right people to go to. And in chiropractic we have a lot of resources because, again, we have seen the bad side of vaccine injuries and such, and we can direct people to the right resources that they can make an informed decision. And I think that's what's essential, is you have to be informed. And if you're not informed, you're making a decision that's almost coercion, and you're being pushed into something that you don't really know, that there are a lot of harsh realities that can happen. And unfortunately, the doctors are not there after the fact to really help you through that. And we've seen it, people just get abandoned.
Where can we find your chiropractic clinic, and where do you practice? What's it called? Where can we find you?
I'm in a movement what's called the 100-year lifestyle. I'm basically a belief that if you take care of your body over the years, you can live a fruitful life up to 100 years and beyond. My office can be found at sleppy.net, that's sleppy.net, and we're in Indiana, Pennsylvania.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
For your story with us today.
Mm-hmm.